Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the OHSAA financial update, talking about spring 2023 results. I know that we're already underway here in this new school year, but thank you for joining us to share these results. I'm Laura Vermilya, the financial controller here. Also with us is Dr. Kim Kiehl, Chief Operating Officer, and Doug Ute, Executive Director. So we're just going to jump right into it to share our results from spring. By sport, the sports are down the left-hand side, and then across the columns of the top, the first column is our attendance. This is attendance at all levels. Sectional, district, regional, and state. Ticket revenue is the next column, again, across all levels, sectional through state. Any other revenues, primarily programs or radio, and then our total expenses to host all levels of the tournament, sectional through state, and then the profit or loss from each of those sports. So you can see baseball, the first sport there, attendance was 134,186. Revenue was just over $1 million, $1,058,000. Other revenues of radio and programs, 21,931, and then total expenses for baseball at all levels, 847,730 for a total profit of 232,366. Baseball being our most profitable sport in the spring, and second in attendance and second in revenues. Overall, attendance across all sports was up 4% over the same season last year. Lacrosse continues to be the one sport that is trending upward since we recognized it as a official OHSAA sport. Continues to trend upward. And then baseball also had its highest attendance. Again, this is across all levels since 2015. The second line there is softball. You can see the attendance, the ticket revenue, other revenue, total expenses costs about the same to run softball as it does baseball. However, we just don't get the same number of attendees. So there is a loss in softball of 135,329. Boys tennis is the next row, also a loss. Lacrosse is, as I mentioned, the 59,119 was a record and has just trended upward every year. Total ticket revenue 568, other revenues 2580, total expenses just under 400,000. So our second profitable sport in the spring was lacrosse at 171,165. Track and field, our highest attended sport, 136,706, almost 1.2 million in ticket revenues. However, due to the nature of expenses to run track and field, we almost broke even there at a small loss of 3,823. And then the first year for boys volleyball, attendance 13,537, 128,000 in revenues, 140 in expenses, so a slight loss there of 12,000. All in, total spring attendance 436, 252, almost 3.7 million in ticket revenue, 3.5 million in expenses for a total profit from spring sports of 218,819. On the next slide here, we will show how that 218,819 breaks down by district by sport. So again, the districts are down the left-hand side there. The sports are across the top. And this just shows by district how each sport performed. So Central across the top, made money in baseball, lost money in the other sports, actually almost broke even in track and field. So district total was $20,910. East, in total, $12,188. Northeast, due to just the nature of the sheer volume of games and disparity in attendance, lost money in all sports. Northwest, so on and so on. And then the very last line before the total is the regional and state level by sport and how those performed. So again, in total, the 218 comes from these districts here on the right-hand side, and then the regional and state levels. Also, I failed to mention, if you do have questions, please type those in the chat and we'll get to those at the end. Okay, so our fiscal year ended July 31st. This is a draft results where our auditors will be here in a few weeks to audit these results, but did want to share them with you. Fall sports, actual was $3,539,322. This is net revenues versus a budget of $3,393,000. So favorable in fall, $146,000. Winter sports, $1,987,000 versus a budget of $2,525,000, down about $500,000. And spring sports, $218,000 versus a budget of $404,000, down $185,000. So a couple things driving the results there in all three seasons really is we introduced a student ticket price at the beginning of last year. That was not in the budget. That was something that happened after the budget was completed. The budget gets put together in the April timeframe and then approved in the early June timeframe. And then by the time our board meets at the end of August, we introduce the student ticket price. So that was worth about $1.5 million in revenue versus the budget that we did not earn with that student ticket price. But obviously that's a way we can incent students to attend our events and just, invest in the student and the student athlete. In addition, we increased the travel stipends that we paid for team, regional, and state sports. The board decided to do that again as a way to help offset costs that those teams incurred to travel, and it was more than we had budgeted. So all in total net tournament revenue, $5,762,000 there in the middle of the page versus a budget of $6,323,000, so down $560,000. Other operating revenues, primarily corporate sponsorships, officials fees, and other royalty revenues, $4,334,000 versus a budget of $3,796,000. Almost all that good news is coming from corporate sponsorship. Our partnership with TPG, we did hit the revenue sharing portion, which is above and beyond our minimum guarantee. And then other operating expenses, 6.735 versus 7.048, so better than budget on expenses by 4%, leading to a total net operating profit of 3,361 versus a budget of 3,071, so better by 290,000. And then per the board's initiative, we distributed athletic enrichment funds to each member high school, and that was $1,017,500. So after that distribution, a profit of $2,344,000 versus a budget of $3 million. Our cash at the end of the July was 17.9, so 10 months on hand. That's better. That is above our goal of 9 months on hand. So doing well on the cash front. A far cry from 2.5 years ago when we were about 1 month on hand. So just some things that we did this past school year to invest in students in schools. Obviously, I mentioned the Athletic Enrichment Fund distribution. That was $1,017,000. The travel stipends for regional and state events, that was $1,030,000. The student ticket pricing was worth about $1,500,000. The catastrophic insurance that we pay for every member school, $485,000. Greens fees, lineage fees that we absorb for tournaments. Previously, schools paid for those, $415,000. The Arbiter software license for schools, obviously this is last year was the last year for that. That was $385,000. And then scholarships awarded to students, $169,000. So just over $5 million went back to students in schools last year, versus the $2 million in profit that we made. And then just to go through, we show this slide every single time we get together. Our financial objectives: operate at a profit. Our budget was 3.1. We came in at 2.3 million. Build our reserves. Our goal has been 9 months cash on hand. We have communicated that to you, and we are at 10, and that breaks down as 5 months of operating and 5 months of reserves. And then to support students in their participation, invest in students. We have the Athletic Enrichment Fund, the scholarships, and then the new sports this year of girls wrestling, boys volleyball, and our collaboration in esports. Questions?
Thanks, Laura. We do not have any questions that have come in at this time. We are on a slight delay, so I will defer to you, Doug or Kim, about any additional information you want to share, so we can give it a couple minutes for questions to roll in. So.
Well, again, thanks everyone for joining us this morning. We will share again the results coming out of fall 2023. That will most likely be in the after everyone's back from Christmas break in early January.
Thanks, Laura. We did have one question
Sure.
coming in regarding the Athletic Enrichment Fund. They asked specifically about the documentation of what the enrichment money was spent on. Can you talk about the requirements surrounding such documentation and how we would collect that, so on and so forth?
Sure. So the Athletic Enrichment Fund distribution, I don't have my notes in front of me, but there should have been a slip that went out with the check saying what it was for, and it can be used on equipment, transportation, officiating fees, building a student engagement plan or a adult behavior program. Really most anything that would fall in the purview of the athletic department. Our plan is to solicit feedback through Google questionnaire and or phone survey on what those funds, how those funds ended up being used. We will collect that on our end. It will be a sample. We are not going to solicit all 800 schools. However, as an athletic director, you may want to work with your treasurer and see what kind of documentation they would need for any audits that they would maybe have to go through, that those funds did get spent how we intended them to be spent. The exact language is also on our website under the board minutes from April 13th, 2023.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura. Well, we do not have any additional questions right now, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. As Laura had mentioned, we will be posting this video later on this week. And you can find that on the OHSAA's YouTube page, and that will go out to the membership and a memo here in the coming weeks, so you can share it with the remainder of your stakeholders. Laura, anything else you wanted to add or mention prior to wrapping up?
That's it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.